What's happening, guys? Another good week of action, a lot of craziness. It's still been a little bit difficult for me to kind of get a grasp on, typically trading a bunch of these different names and with such range. It's not really my thing, but I kind of stuck to one really good trade per day. For example, AUPH on Thursday and SAVA on Friday. Normally I would be taking 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 names and kind of scaling in accordingly. Stuff like KOD, AXSM, things like that. But just with the gaps, the ranges, the flushes, the offerings, the craziness, it's just difficult. So I didn't want to get into any issues where you start into something and it flushes out $3, $4. So I just kind of kicked them off radar, and I really just zoned in and focused on a few this week. And I think that was a little bit cleaner. I had a lot of scratches, where I started into stuff, they didn't really turn it into anything, and then just kind of kick them off. I missed a lot of stuff, but that's okay. But I focused in on that one big trade per day, one main focus name based on volume, liquidity, opportunity, or at least confidence level, based on the way that I trade. We had a decent amount of new members over the past week and a half, and one of the main questions is, what do you think that I should be doing trying to grow my account? Where do you think I should focus? What should I do, basically? And the answer is you have to really kind of dabble in everything, and that can be paper trading. Everybody's first comment is, well, paper trading doesn't have emotions and all that kind of stuff. That's right, it doesn't. However, it does allow you to test different strategies for free, right? I'd rather see you test and get blown up on paper than get into something, not really understand what you're doing, and lose a bunch of money, right? So the idea is that you kind of prove to yourself that you're buying lower, you're selling higher, or you're shorting higher, and you're buying back lower. And as you prove to yourself over time that you are seeing the market correctly, what you see from charts or level 2 or action, news, fundamentals, whatever you is, as long as it's turning in from a higher entry on the short and you're covering lower, and a lower entry on the long and you're selling higher, that's all that matters. And then as you get a little bit more confident, you start to build up and whatnot, then you can start to scale with real money. So you might start 100 shares. Go through the motions. It's real money now. Go through the motions, get used to your platform. There's no, my platform screwed up, so I lost a bunch of money. You don't want those excuses. You're scapegoating for a bad trade, right? So that's the next step. So paper trade, test out different types of trades, whether it might be a weak open red to green, gap up parabolic, gearing kind of perking, ABCD type breakout, whatever it may be, whatever is at your comfort level. That's what you go through. You're going to find out that you suck at one thing and you're good at something else. And whatever you're good at, you're going to focus on. You're going to focus, and you're going to try to better it and better it and better it. And as you do that, you're going to shift into, say, 100 shares. You shift into 200, 500, 1,000, 2,000, whatever. And as you progress, so will your trading and so will your size. Because that's the next thing. How do I know when to size up and whatnot? And everybody always thinks that if they just had more money, then everything would be fine. But you have to kind of learn at each and every single level. And I've been rejected plenty of times trying to size the heck out of stuff, because all of a sudden you're bringing in a new emotional kind of tie to the trade that you're having, or you're making bad decisions, or you're overstaying, or you don't take, maybe 4 weeks ago or so, I was talking about maybe it was Goose or something else. But where I was really sizing in, and that kind of size, when it starts to go sideways or when it stops going down, you have to take some off. And if you don't, once you're scaled in, that rebound is pretty tough. So that's always a learning curve, no matter where you're at. So take it slow. Don't worry about no emotion. Don't worry about, I could have made $500, all that kind of stuff. None of that matters. All it is find something that works for you and your personality. Don't trade everything. but try different types of strategies, see which ones make sense for you, and then start to kind of progress from there. Arthur Mayer from last week, I wrote on a little comment there. You are the winner for 1 month of Investors Underground. As I said, we're going to give something away every week with these Sunday scans. But once a month, we're going to give away a month of chat. So, congratulations, Arthur. I liked your comment there, and I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate everybody's feedback. As always, I always want your biggest takeaway from Scan. I know I repeat myself a lot, but the point of it is I want to learn what you guys are learning, or what you guys like, or what makes sense, the aha moments for you guys, because that helps me help others, right? And then if you want to add on this week, different ideas. So for example, if you want a particular topic, or you're having trouble with something, or anything like that, I'm going to probably try to do 2 or 3 more videos, maybe 2 videos a week instead of just this one for YouTube. But I want to get some different feedback. I love a good brainstorming session, so make sure you drop a comment on different types of ideas, strategies, thoughts that you have difficulties with, things like that, and I will try to kind of formulate a idea in my mind of how to convey that to you in the best manner possible, because I don't want to just be blabbing on these videos when I can kind of prepare some ideas based on some thoughts anyway that you guys have. So again, appreciate you guys' feedback. Thank you so much. And I think tonight I was going to talk about 2 stocks, maybe 3, then get into Scan, and we'll go from there. So again, I'm doing this on Saturday, so we'll probably get it out early on Sunday tomorrow, hopefully, or I guess now that you're going to be watching it on Sunday today. But I'm going to the Patriots game, so that should be interesting. The only part that I'm sad about is I'm going to miss all the Peloton commercials and all the outrage and all that kind of craziness that happened this week. So I actually like it, though. Probably a lot of shorts came into Peloton, but for those of you guys that have been swinging it, it's been good. Obviously, it pulled back about $4 or $5 off the highs, but it's still about 12 or 13 bucks higher than the entry. So, or I guess now it's only 9 or 10, but whatever the case is, great swing trade, really nice rally there. It did go 12 or 13, I think. So 22, 23, 24, till about 37, 38 almost. But really, really incredible opportunity. But hopefully we still have some shorts in there, and especially after this outrage kind of short campaign. But at any rate, AUPH and SAVA, I wanted to talk about those a little bit. AUPH, the thesis that I had, and the reason why I traded it in the manner that I did was it basically doubled into the news, right? So if you kind of go back and look at this daily chart, it essentially went from 4 all the way up to almost 9, about 850 or so. So a double leading into that data, and it was within a month. About, well, I guess a month and a half. And then on top of that, it went more than a double again. So in my mind, it was very retail loaded. A lot of retail hands. And what that means is, I'm not talking about just funds holding it, but like a lot of mom and pops, E-Trade, TD Ameritrade, just retail traders, basically. Long. And it worked out. So what are they going to do? Are they going to hold it, or are they going to take some profits? And in my opinion, they'll probably take some profits. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go down, for forever. It's not going to fill the gap, potentially. But point is that there's going to be some pressure. And I kind of call that a transitional day, where new buyers come in based on the news. They were waiting for that news to confirm and either add to their position or build a position. And then you've got shorts that think it ran too much that come in and offer out. And you just have that transitional day where it's kind of a little bit of a battle, but also pressure from sellers, pressure from shorts, new buyers coming in, and then may the best man win after that. And the next morning, we had a nice gap down, flush, and rally back. So it's probably going to hang around this level for a little bit. We might have a nice little trade. But the trade that I took was basically a higher the better type of trade and looking for failed follow through momentum. And I let the trade kind of come in. And, you know, I did trade it after hours that day. It's not a very high, you know, A+ type, 9 out of 10 type trade. So it's something that I can't really scale in to any crazy size. However, I did, you know, I dabbled, I added, and I got a good piece of it. And I was happy about that. So I felt like I had a good read on it so that the next day I was hopeful that it would come up higher and have an opportunity to reshort based off of a little bit of the where the volume was, where the pressure was from the night before that I had been watching. So that next morning I had a workout, so I missed the 19s. I was interested in shorting those, and I debated it, but then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have to check my phone while I'm driving home, and it's just not a good idea. So I decided that I was gonna wait. And I waited till I got to my desk, and I kind of just started to lean in on all the pops. We had some great opportunities. We had a lot of action. We talk about on here looking left to kind of anticipate what may happen on the right. And so if you just draw a simple line across, and you'll see that 1750, 1740s level. And so what happened is a lot of people got on the short side, and you know, thinking that it's just going to unwind. It's up too much. It's going to finally fade. This is going to be the one that just fades all day. And you know what? I actually had that same thought, but it started to consolidate, hold higher lows, and I didn't fight it. And I was pretty proud of myself for that, because you know, there was about 3 or 4 times where it kind of flushed out, but it got caught up. Flushed out, they caught it. Flushed out, they caught it. And as that happened, I said, you know what? I feel like everybody is on the short side. Everybody is waiting for it to flush. It's not happening. I'm going to wait. And so I went ahead and covered, and I covered below 16, you know, in the 1570s, 1580s, 1590s on the last batch of it that I had from pre-market and then into the ramps. And I had posted the chart. So if you're interested, you can go to Instagram and view, you know, how I traded it. But I was very, very happy with the fact that I went ahead and moved on, because that is the key with trading. Is if you get into a position and you have a plan and it's not acting the way that you thought, why are you still in? And that is a hard part for a lot of people, because once you're in, you want to let it work, or you know, it didn't go to plan, but you know what, I'm going to see what it does. And that's those words that you need to stay away from. So I do it all the time, you know, not necessarily with size and fighting and stuff like that, but you know, I donate money all the time because I'm like, you know what, it isn't doing what I want it to do, but I'm going to kind of see what happens here. I could have just got in, you know, later on. And so I was pretty happy with going ahead and covering it before, you know, 5 minutes before this even happened. And as it went, what that did is it gave me the ability to react more aggressive into this rip, and you know, kind of use that left as my guide, that there's probably going to be resistance there. I can start in, dabble in, scale in a little bit more than if I had still had a crappier average from, you know, down there. And so that's exactly what happened. I ended up scaling into the 17, 10, 20s, and 40s. And you needed to have a good average, because you needed to let it just kind of go up and down, up and down, up and down, and exhaust all those traders that were short in the 15, 16 range at 17, 17, 20, etc. And if you were emotionally attached, you covered. You covered at the 1720s, 1740s. So I ended up flushing out there. Perfect opportunity, and I was just really happy with that. So for those of you guys that are in the room, you have the video lesson. You can kind of go back and check that one out. SAVA, I was going to go over next for from Friday, but I just had one other thought too, CLVS. Now, just want to kind of reiterate the fact that you don't have to find the top on these stocks, right? And me too. I always want to, you know, nail that trade, right? You always want to get that top, and it's not necessarily that you get ran over on the way up. I mean, it's not a case like that. But what it is, it exhausts you, right? So you get short, it flushes out, and it comes back up. And you're like, I was just up a lot. Now I'm back to scratch. Next day, short, flushes out, perfect. You got a buck. Start to scale in, flushes out again, perfect. And I think I went over this on one of the videos, but that CLVS day where it went 16 to 15 to 14 and it flushed out to 13. And looking back, I should have covered it all at 13, but it's right back up to 1380, grinded to 1450. So I had scaled in, had a monster trade going, nice flush out, and then boop, right back up. And again, not that it was a loser, it was just a big trade minimized. And, that is part of the exhaustion that, you're trading the front side of the move and it's bound to happen. So the biggest move a lot of the times happens after the crack, right? We all want to nail that first big day, but just wait. And then you won't be exhausted. You'll have a clear head. You won't be biased from the day before. Oh, this stupid thing went this way. I expected it to do this. It didn't work. No, you're going to have a clear head. You're going to be able to react. And with that, we had so much opportunity on this. And again, I minimized it. I traded some of it, but not all of it. I got a nice flush out into the close this day. I just leaned it in on it. But that was all backside. And it was so much easier. I'm not saying it was easy. Trading is not easy. It was easier than trying to nail this flush right over here that came right back up, or this flush that went right back up. It was so much easier when you wait for VWAP to confirm your thesis, when you take a chill pill, relax, let the sellers, let everything kind of flip, And that's really the biggest thing about these types of names, especially when you're in a crazy short squeeze, right? The move, you're interested because it's gone straight up. Well, when it pulls back, it's going to be bad. And this is a perfect example of that. So last but not least, we had SAVA on Friday. I try to put out a little bit of commentary here and there on Twitter. Just, my thoughts. And so this was a pretty crazy one. They put out some news, pretty much a rehash of what they had already, said, but they additional information, which it was meaningless information, just a couple extra commas and bullet points and stuff like that. Not really, but it doesn't change anything. But all they were doing is just trying to get a headline in this market. And so with that said, there was two reasons why I liked it. One was rehashed, news didn't matter, it was all crap. And two, fundamental reasons. If you go back through the filings, find out where they can unload a bunch of many millions of shares, today's the day to do it. So there's a good chance that they converted a ton of warrants into this, and now they've got some good cash. But situation like this, for me, I missed again because the gym. And I missed this thin kind of action, and maybe I would have been there, maybe probably not. But instead, I waited, and I waited for entry. And again, you can go back and look on Instagram. You can see the entry. But I shorted at 280. I shorted at 280 into the 7 a.m. rush. I waited. I didn't want to get emotionally, I missed it. It's already gone from 3 to 250 to 240. I'm just going to hammer it in. No, I want to be emotionally disconnected. So I waited for it. It ripped up, and it offered plenty of opportunity into the 280s. Slammed down, and every test from that point forward on the VWAP level failed. So great opportunities. Ended up flushing out, and I ended up covering into the wash near open a little bit before and into this flush right over here. And ended up kind of going back, reclaiming trend. And this, in my opinion, was just, when everybody knows that it's trash, when everybody knows that they're selling, when everybody knows that it's a no-brainer, going to probably end at the lows, sometimes there's too much on one side, and it's enough to kind of turn it and emotionally get out all those, squeeze the shorts that aren't as confident. and then unwind. So that's why I always like to pay myself along the way, because it gives me the ability to reload. And I had no position after my covers, and I was able to reload. And that's why I always, higher the better, right? And everybody's like, well, if you're short, why do you want higher the better? And that's exactly why. I want a better position. I want a better, the more it bounces, the higher it goes, the more longs are going to be buying the dips, buying the dips, buying the dips, loading up, buying the breakout, buying the reversal. And then as they continue to sell, at some point, all those longs that were dip buying all day and buying that midday reversal that failed are going to come to the other side. And that's exactly what happened here. And, you had a little bit of support, maybe 205 level, 210, 205. And as soon as all these dip buyers finally realize, oh, yep, we're not bouncing. Maybe it's time to hit the road. They all figure it out at the same time. Flushes out, big candle, decent volume. Rebounds again. Oh, it doesn't do it again. Flushes out. So good opportunities there. Very nice very nice trade on Friday. And this easily could continue to fade. But I would be cautiously bearish into ramps. As long as it stays under VWAP, as long as the trend continues to fail or act heavy, I love it. So that is it from the recap. If you guys have any questions, reach out. Let's get into Sunday scan. I put the, you'll see it, but I put the Ryan Reynolds, they did a gin spoof off of the Peloton commercial with the Peloton wife, which is really funny. So, anyway, BIG. BIG was fantastic, steady squeezer. This is one of those that, just like CLVS, not necessarily that it's a short squeeze, but it's a steady rip, and everybody always wants to short. It was one of the most popular questions that I got in the room on Friday. What do you think about a short here? What do you think about a short here? What do you think about a short here? Well, there's two ways that I would short this. One, parabolic. Two, backside. None of which happened. So therefore, it's not an interest at all for a short. So for me, on Monday, week open, and then rally back is ideal. So ideally, I'd like to see it kind of, pull back a little bit and then rally back red to green. Something like this, a little bit of setup. Say this line, my cursor here, say this is like the prior close. I'd love to see it kind of base like this and then ramp through the prior close. That's a trade I would take. Otherwise, gap up and potential fade back. KLXE was a pain on Friday. This one I started in early. I started to kind of ramp up, and I bought the dips along the way, and not any size, because in my mind 550 was the trigger. And you can see that this level over here, 550, you want to see it base. You want to see it base and confirm. And so then it came back to the 540s here. Pulled back, came back up, goes up to the 550s. I'm like, all right, we might have a good, a good trade now. Nope, pulls back. All right, this time, nope, pulls back. And then finally, the 92nd time that it tried at 550s, it kind of pushed through. So I sold into that ramp, but it wasn't, it wasn't a big gain by any means. My goal was that would have happened earlier. It would have based at 550s. I would have been able to scale into a winner, but instead I probably made 20 cents on small size. So the point here is that wait for those levels to confirm. Everybody always wants to anticipate, but in this market you get paid a lot better by not chasing but buying after key levels break. So let that key level break, not just hit it. Not 550 being a key level. Don't let it just hit it, but let it come back, break through it, 560s, come back and base at that level now. So if it's always been peaking right here every time, you want it to come through and start to base at that level. And once it bases and goes, then I am interested. Then you have a set risk, and then you can scale accordingly. So I do like this though on the daily chart. From that perspective, also the sector in general is starting to have a decent rally. So I do like the potential. So I will be watching all dips versus 550s. I know that's a little close, but I don't really want to own it 530, 540s. I want to see it over 550s. And then I think that the 6 level is going to have a little bit of trouble. But once it clears the 6, then you start to potentially open up to the 7s, 8s, and stuff like that. So, and it's set up that if it gets a decent amount of volume, it could definitely do it. SAVA, we already kind of hit. So basically now you can use left to predict right. So if we wake up and we're 190, I'm hoping we go and test 2. I absolutely can't wait. I don't think it'll happen, but 2 is I'd love that. I'd love a gap up and rush. That'll get anybody that was kind of overly aggressive into the close, that was short, to cover, and as well as anybody that got bagged from 3, 250, 2, whatever, they might start to add. So look left, potential resistance here, 205 to basically 210 range, something like that, 220. I just don't see it rebounding that much. So I would be cautiously looking to fade it off of gaps, off of strength, as long as it has trouble bouncing. CLDR, this is another one of those that this was from Monday. I was talking about like a couple scratches. So I had kind of joined the fade, and then it starts to ramp up, so I stopped out. Then it starts to go, it fails. I had a beautiful short, and it flushed right out, and I covered about a third right over here on this turn. But then it goes, all that work and patience and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden you're right back to where you were flat. So this was another one of those annoying days, but this is also what I would call a transitional day. And just to kind of give you a quick idea of what we talked about. We talked about this on Thursday on the webinar. But this is what I would call a transitional day. One of those days where it'll probably grind you out, chop you up intraday, but that next day is the real move day. So as I had said on Thursday in the webinar, basically I was looking for if it held out of the open, I'd be looking for a long to go back towards the highs. Obviously we blew through the highs and kept on going. And then the same thing you can see right here, transitional kind of day right here. And the reason why that was an important level, we're breaking through all of this prior resistance. So it breaks through, but there's still going to be a seller that's probably present. That all right, it always closes under this level. I'm going to come back in and kind of hammer it back down. And so then that next day confirm that, all right, we're holding over that support and we're going. So that's basically what I'd be looking for on CLDR. There's two trades here. One, it doesn't gap up, it just fails and it flushes. I'd be looking for a gap fill. 2 would be the same as GTT and SIG. And basically what that is I want to see it kind of open relatively flat, 1080, 1090 bases, and it starts to go, and I would assume that not only do we take out 820s, but we go 850s and more. 850s, 11. So I would be looking for, try this again, I'd be looking for 1080s, 1090s, start to base, and then potentially take out that 1120s and keep on going 1150, 12. So those are the two. I always like to prepare both ways, and everybody's that would criticize me and would say, well, you're not really putting anything out there. Come with 2 plans, because you have one gap up and you don't know whether it was just an exhaustion move and we're going to pull back, or if we're going to consolidate and go. And so that's why I like to come prepared, because if it does have high volume, I'm ready to go. So that's how I prepare on something like that. ADXS, nothing I'm going to probably trade right now, but you know what? If I don't keep an eye on it, then I'll probably be pissed at $4 that I didn't, because that's what's happening in this market right now. PTI. PTI. Right over here, kind of same stuff, scraping off the lows, and all of a sudden goes nuts, right? So I'm going to be watching this ADXS just in case. And again, right now this is a technical scan. On Monday morning, usually what I do is I go through my scan and look up, all right, what's a catalyst for ADXS and things like that. So when I'm doing all this, none of that is included in this. That's kind of my pre-market routine. Figure out from what I had scanned, it gives me a chance to refamiliarize myself with the scan the night before, as well as dig in a little bit if I'm interested. And on that note, with PTI, that's what Sunday Scan's about. Just trying to throw in as much as I can for you guys. So this is considered a gap fill, right? And you guys saw the short trade that I had posted on Twitter, more than likely Twitter or Instagram. And the thesis behind it was one, monster squeeze through a whole number, refresh seller 408s, squeezed out through 410s, confirmed, and came back in. But the second reason was the gap fill. And so that's exactly what the thesis was on LXRX yesterday, when traded the week open for breakout and potential gap fill. And you can see that basically this support level every single time was actually the high for Friday. And that's why I had suggested that I was exiting into that move. I can always rebuy, but you should assume it's going to fail, because how many times have people been caught there? They're long supporting this level. They finally get a chance to potentially break even. So anyway, just throwing that in while I saw it, because we were looking at this ADXS chart and it reminded me of PTI. WLL sector trade. I like WLL, SM, OAS, anytime that oil and gas, energy, things like that start to rip. So, it's on my scan. I'm not crazy about it, but I want to see it. And if you guys remember, that's the goal with scan, just see it. MTNB is going nuts. This kind of reminds me of PTI. Don't underestimate it, but hopefully we get some type of 220, 240, something like that, and we're able to make a trade on it. Nice, powerful close on Friday. Kept on going a little bit after hours, almost up towards the 2 level, and all dips held. So reactive trade. The only two ways that I would short this is backside or parabolic. So I am hopeful for a parabolic move. IMMU. Steady bidder came in at the close. So 2050 starts the base, rally back. Otherwise, if it starts to kind of retest that 2060 level or so, then potentially fade off. But really big move. SIG, talked about this a little bit. The goal here is dips and potential continuation until it stalls. And usually I would only trade the day or two around the breakout in the volume, and then I kick it off of radar. LXRX we talked about, so I would be looking at all dips. And again, the thing about LXRX is, it's not just a buy for me. I want to be cautiously buying dips so that if and when it starts to speed up, I can scale into that win. Because you're going to buy so many breakouts and it's going to fail. It's just like CGIX and PTI even had a lot of like fake breakouts. It starts to go and then slam. Starts to go, slam. And then when you're not expecting it, it rips. Argentina is starting to come back, it appears. Big levels here. GGAL is one, BBAR is another, BMA is another. So those are, I always kind of look. Again, nothing I necessarily care about for Monday. I just want to see that chart. CGIX interests me for sure. That last time we talked about it, it had that huge close, and then there was just no follow through the next day. Now, this time, if you think about the other side of the trade, if you think about shorts, if you think about where we're at in the trade, this had a lot of low volume, and it came back, it kind of held on, but then it almost appeared like they walked, right? And so flushed out again. And, if you were short, you probably lost the first time, right? probably got blown out on low volume. You don't want to get in a situation where it goes to like 10, 15, or 20. So you're covering. You're moving on. You said, you know what? Screw it. You reposition. You get short. And it works. And it starts to fade off, starts to unwind, and it's just an ugly day. Just closes towards the lows. Nobody's there. Did you cover? Probably not. Then all of a sudden, next day, bam, it's back up. It's back up to the 7s. So now we have a potential play. And I know it doesn't look good. I know it looks like it could do anything. But we had that huge volume day, 23 million volume. Squeezed out some. It's still thin. It's still holding. This likely trapped. You don't need very many shares to be short. You know, a couple 100,000 shares, this thing could go nuts. So I am watching it. There was definitely some buying in the 7 range. 670s to 680s have to hold for me to be interested. 720s the first trigger, and then we get into the 8s, you know, 880, 820, stuff like that. Or excuse me, 850, 880s. But definitely keeping an eye, especially if there's a PR. BXRX, this one they filed an S3 late on Friday. Not much reaction on the bid or the offer, but not that they're going to do anything in the next couple of days. It's just it's out there. But this was a spinoff from REPH. I've been kind of researching it a little bit. What originally turned me on to this was this day over here caught it on radar. And then this next day, they were just completely leaning with SSR on. You could see, everybody was kind of hugging the offers on the way down. So it, to me, felt like an aggressive short got positioned in there. And since that day, if you notice those wicks we talk about, right? Wick came back, wick came back, wick came back. So to me, there's a buyer in there. Now, this is like a 0 or a 1,000%er type of opportunity, right? So just thinking, out loud, the type of market that we're in, they've got some stuff into the first quarter of 2020. So if they file for the NDA type thing, get approval, whatever they got to go through and all that kind of stuff, it could start to build. But I'm watching it, and I scooped, it was an idea about a week ago off the dips. But I scooped just a starter. No, not a big position yet. I'd like to see dips and use kind of 5 as the risk and look to see what happens there. So I'll be watching that. Again, lower the better, and just kind of see how this starts to churn at and play. My theory is that it's a spin-off from REPH. So REPH has about 70 to 75% institutional ownership. So BXRX has 9 million shares. That leaves, if the same institutions are holding and they aren't selling, it's a pretty thin float. That leaves about 1.5 million, 2 million. My theory is not a lot of people will realize that, potentially short based off the 9 million. There's only going to be 1.5 million, 2 million out there, and it could be a funky mover. It's all a theory, an idea at the moment, but I'm watching it because the volume, the price action, the trend. But again, could fail. Price action would have to confirm, and it would have to play out. YEXT and PD, both big movers. These are, you had that big volume day, gap down earnings. So the next 2 days, I'll be watching these. I'm not going to sit here and have a plan to go. I got to see what happens in the morning. If we gap up $1, make a plan from there. If we gap down $1, make a plan from there. But these are 2 that I really want to watch. AUPH, nice opportunity on Friday. The goal of the trade on Friday was either a gap up and use 1570s as a guide for the fade, or flush out, consolidate, VWAP, confirm, and get long. And that worked out pretty well. And you can also see how it comes back to VWAP as well. If you don't have VWAP on your charts, you're missing out. It's a very good tool. Work. This is another one of those transitional type 23 levels. I would imagine it's going to break and fail, and then we might have the move. Last two, PTON, you know the drill. I've been long since this range. We've had a nice breakout. We had a smear campaign. Commercial is sexist and all this crazy stuff from a bunch of crazies, but none of that matters. That just is going to bring a lot of shorts. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see if it starts to base. If it starts to base over those 34, 35s and consolidate, then that's great. Some people are buying 50 calls, but I'm planning on letting this one, work unless the trend breaks. And then last but not least, BLL. This was a nice trade alert by T530. It was a downgrade. He alerted in this area over here. It was a nice little fader. And not only did it try to bounce, lower highs, bouncing ball analogy that you guys should be familiar with on Tandem Trader for those of you guys that have watched. And then, this being the ground floor at 64 and then a nice fade. The level that I gave in the room this last day over here was the 63.50s was the low. So I figured that I would want to hold that level, but I will use that level now. So if 63.50s ends up being the top tomorrow or on Monday, if it starts to kind of fail, then we're probably going to unwind. But if not, then just assume that it's going to hang out at that level. So that's the game plan. Again, the main ones are usually at the top, the front. I'm not going to trade 20 stocks on Monday. My goal is to focus in on the top two, maybe 3 to 4 max. But the process of doing scans, the process of going over things allows you to kind of stay in tune with where stocks are at. So now that if oil and gas, energy goes nuts, where SM, WLL, HAL, and as well as a bunch of other different names are. You've seen the charts, so you can react that much faster to getting in or shorting based on what happens. So that's the idea for going over these types of things. And then I think that's pretty much it. Welcome to all the new members. I want to say thanks to everybody that came in over the last week, 2 weeks. Obviously, we had Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales, and inflow of new subscribers and whatnot. But everybody respected the rules. Everybody asked good questions. Went in the Traders Lounge, and that's what it's about. So I really do appreciate you guys abiding by our rules. I know we have a heavy hand in the momentum room, but that's what makes it great, right? You don't have to sift through all the noise, and it's just straight momentum, action, alert, news, things that are hitting scans, stuff like that. And then we have the Traders Lounge, which is where members ask anything, members helping members, moderators helping members, and everything in between. So that's it. Have a good rest of the weekend, guys, and we will see you Monday.